carry in the later stages of the game, also brings enough utility, brings enough CC to act as an enabler for the rest of his team too.
Yeah, of course, you are one of 5 guns. You do have a lot of CC on. The purple Gravitum gun is certainly something to keep your eye out for. And we haven't seen Aphelios for a little bit, so we can maybe take a little bit of a deeper dive on that one when we get into the game and quite how the intricacies of that are going to work. Go respond with their Viego and the Aatrox, so completing their top side means that that bot lane is going to be ripe for the picking for Oplon in that second ban phase. They can take away the things like the Ezreal if they're looking to play through this bot lane, which it looks like with a safe Gnar in the top lane. Volibear wanting to get those early ganks down. I would expect to see them try and target away some of those safer ADCs, potentially the Xayah. Kai'Sa gets taken away, synergizes quite nicely with the Go comp thus far. I do expect Ezreal's going to be that follow.
Yeah, just a little bit too safe in that bot side, and when Go have indexed as much as they have into having a proactive top side, I think that seeing Smiley on something like the Ezreal wouldn't particularly surprise me. Veigar actually being taken off the board by Go here, so targeting out some of the control mages of Peng.
This is really smart as well. The entirety of Go wants to opt into diving onto you. I think that Swain is like the next pet ban that you want to go for when you have really short range compositions. The Ahri herself wants to jump forward. Aatrox, Viego all do that same thing, and you can tell that with the bans that are coming through from Oplon, they're expecting full engage to come on out. Azir actually another really great one because he has that shuffle to push everyone back out as soon as they've committed to going forward. So we'll have to see whether or not we see the Swain locked in for Oplon. They do have the choice now of just locking in their mid lane and knowing they're going against an Ahri, saving R5 for support counter pick, because neither team have elected to take their supports just yet. So we'll have to see quite what Oplon choose.
Yeah, it is quite strange. In terms of like focus away from the support pool, it's really just been that Rel in terms of the tank engage supports. The Seraphine can also offer that as well, but generally you see her played a bit more mid lane, a bit more in that AD role. As Taliyah is going to be the lock-in for Oplon. Peng going to be piloting that one in the mid lane, and yeah, counter pick available for Twist.
I like this Taliyah as well, taken. It's something that we are starting to see crop up a little bit more through just all of the world, I suppose. I know I've seen it a few times across in the North American space with the Unraveled Earth and 4 champions that want to jump forward. If they jump forward through the Taliyah E, it means they're going to get that micro stun on impact. It is a fairly decent laning phase for the Taliyah as well. You can match push of the Ahri quite significantly, so I'm quite a big fan of this for Peng. We'll see how well this gets piloted, but Team Go, they've recognized, okay, well, they've picked themselves a disengaged mid laner, somebody who adapts well to being Dovon. Do we double down? Do we pivot? They have gone double and tripled down on full engage.
Yeah, eventually you don't actually have enough defensive skills to deal with
Take the Janna.
5 members of people jumping on top of you. Janna's maybe a shout here, give them something a bit more defensive, but it is going to be the Nautilus, like Oplon, wanting to ensure that they've got some proactive options of their own.
Yes, that's quite right. Janna definitely more of that defensive element, and I don't think necessarily fits in with what we've seen from Twist from him so far this split.
Definitely
not
not.
to say that the dude can't play. Janna has just looked significantly stronger on the hook champions like the Nautilus we're seeing, for example. And you're quite right, it does give them some proactive tools to play through in this bot side. We talked about that safe side on the top lane they've got with the Gnar into the Aatrox. They're going to use this Volibear to try and play toward that bot side. You don't want a Janna as your engaged source, and Nautilus definitely fits much better.
So, looking a little bit at the sort of like the top jungle mid 3v3 here, because it's quite clear that that's going to be a place that Go can put a lot of attention. Well, they definitely can do the same thing in the bot side, but I'm wondering how is that going to be indexing into the likes of the Gnar, the Volibear, and the Taliyah?
I think that to begin with, there could be some chances for Oplon. I think that specifically pre-level 6 is where Oplon actually have a decent advantage. Obviously, the combat ulti for Taliyah, not exactly present. Gnar as well does a fairly decent job in the mini form, so I think that they're going to have a good tool, and something that I want to touch on when we get a little bit later on into this game, when we pop on maybe, is the reset aspect of Team Go's composition.
It does have reset aspects to it. I want to talk about those in a little bit as well. But then looking over on the side of Oplon, we've talked about how much proactivity Go have definitely drafted themselves. Oplon do have tools, stuff like the Volibear, stuff like the Nautilus to go forward. And we're going to have to see if they're going to be able to use them effectively, as we are going to be jumping onto the Rift in just a few moments. there, everybody! Welcome onto the Rift for Game 1 of Week 8 of the LFL 2022 Summer Split. Team Go on the blue side, Oplon on the red. One of these teams fighting for a chance to make their way into playoffs. The other playing only for pride, only to spare the blushes of further defeats. Rude dude, let's get into this.
And we teased a little bit about the top side 3v3 and the impact they're going to have. And specifically, I want to look at Team Go and not just the 3v3, but the 5v5 as well. Because if we look at all 4 of their carry champions, they all have reset capabilities. We've got Aatrox whose ult resets, Ari whose ult resets, Viego whose passive resets, and the Tristana whose jump the W resets. For Team Go, getting the first kill in the teamfight is going to be so crucial for them securing further and further teamfight successes. And that is going to put a lot of pressure onto the positioning of Twist, Schönfire, and Dalek. Those are very likely going to be the 3 in the midst of the front line. If they can go in together, it makes finding that initial reset quite difficult. And I think that this is a really good test for Oplon, because one of the criticisms that we had from them is their stunted engages, their inability to go in as a unit up against this composition. If they go in, uncontested without one another's backup, they're going to get punished and they're very likely going to lose. Alternatively, if they go in as a unit, it will be very much a different story.
Yeah, and I feel like we're seeing little glimpses of that just in terms of keystones, because Twist has gone for the Aftershock here on the North. It's obviously something that is going to provide a bit more in terms of tank stats, but a little bit less lockdown. So recognizing that Go are going to be all-inning really hard on that initial pick, and because the Nautilus is going to be diving forward like we just saw there onto Vagnorum, needs to be able to stand up to all that damage.
Aftershock as well for Vagnorum, matching the keystones in this case, which is obviously going to be something that it's going to enable the dive in a little bit easier. When we look at the front line for Team Go, it is not quite as tanky as what we see from Oplon, so we're expecting Vagnorum to be the exclusive source of engagement, and then the follow-up from an Aatrox, from a Viego, Ari, Tristana are all fairly potent in their own right. But that's what we're going to be seeing a little bit later on, potential foreshadowing of those team fights. For right now, both of our junglers on opposite sides of Summoner's Rift. Schönfire opting into a complete full clear of his jungle, where Karim actually may well be going for a reverse clear in this one. Red Raptor's Gromp to get to level 3, but is now pathing his way back down toward this bot side for a potential contest.
And considering the shove that Bung and Twist have had pretty much constantly on this bot lane, definitely makes a lot of sense to try and index out onto them, as Bung actually going to be taking a swift recall, picking up some extra power.
Looking like a bit of a 3-wave reset, but cancels it in the end. I think that with 12 CS, you get yourself effectively boots off your first base instead of the likes of a cull, which can be much more significant. So wise enough to stay out in the lane. It's also worth mentioning that in this laning phase as well, the Aphelios actually going to have a significant range advantage. Talks about quite what they'll be able to achieve with that. We'll have to wait and see. But Bung, with the Aphelios, like we say, and the sniper weapon as well, has a lot more range than the Tristana early on. We're seeing Schönfire completed his full clear. Twist is on a ward. You can see Vagnorum positioning wisely enough so that he can block the hook.
Yeah. Team Go are aware this is happening. That blue ward just in the entrance to the river, spotting out Schönfire as they're going to be taking a recall. And because of that time spent towards the bot side of the map, yes, they are a camp ahead of Grim. Yes, they are a level ahead of the Viego. But there's a potential for a play to be made here by Team Go in the bot lane. That's actually a lot of damage being dropped down onto Twist, and Karim not quite in range to join the party.
Yeah, they were tempted there, you could tell Oplon. They were like, can we try and take this fight? It's a bit of an aggressive push forward, particularly when Smiley jumps right on the way in like that, but then the path from the Viego comes down. They decide, no, we'll not take the 3v2 in this instance. Something I want to draw your attention to, though, was that early jungle pathing. Schönfire obviously makes his way down to the bot side off the back of a full clear. What we saw from Karim was actually a move into the top side jungle of Oplon, and now Schönfire is completely spotted out on all of his camps. There were 2 wards placed by Karim, one also by Ronaldo, I believe, which is spotting him all the way through his top jungle. He was seen on Krugs, he's now seen on Raptors, and this gives free agency for Team Go to play as aggressive as they like in all 3 lanes.
And it means that Schönfire is not going to be able to find a lot of these early ganks, because if you know where the Volibear is, then protecting yourself against his early game aggression, against the power that he has in sort of the first 10-15 minutes of the game is a hell of a lot easier. However, Opron are going to be taking advantage of this shove in the bot lane, of the power of the Volibear in these early stages to take away this Drake.
Which is quite a nice advantage at the very least. They recognise the window that they've got between Smiley and Wagner and pushing that wave in, going back for a base. This is a very selfless act for the bot lane of Opron. They are sacrificing what is going to be a little bit of tempo in that bot lane, where they would, if they'd have taken the base after shoving the wave, be back to collect everything and likely not have missed any minions underneath their turret.
No.
Likelihood now is that they probably missed one or two. But we are seeing a dead Dalek. I think this is inevitable.
Yeah, possibly going to be exterminated here on the top side. Flash is away, but the Order Deception and Ignite from Ronaldo are enough to claim first blood.
Really good timing on that. Wave crashes, he's just turned into Mini-Gnar. There's really nothing that Dalek can do right there. I think that wasting the flash is, as mentioned, a bit of a waste. Ronaldo has got 3 charges of Spirit Rush plus his own flash as well, in case that's not enough. Stepping a little bit too far forward, and I say that as though he wasn't sat under his own tier 1 turret, but not recognising the window of opportunity that Go had. They had Wagner on a recall, and he quite rightly just doesn't necessarily go bot lane. Something that we see very much from our engaged supports is you take your first base, you pick up a brown pair of bags on your feet, and then you just roam around the map. Had enough with bot lane.
Safety is a very relative term, and overextending is also a very relative term, Rudu, so yeah. Maybe you think you're safe, and maybe you're actually not. And that has resulted in a decent CS lead being grown by Nuku up in the top lane on this Aatrox, who last time out didn't have a lot of fun on the Zeri, but is going to be a little bit more enabled to get into the game in the earlier stages.
And of course, with the with what we're looking for from Opron, the early stages I don't think necessarily need to be too aggressive, but we would like to see something from Schönfire. We would like to see the jungler, particular when you take this Volibear. You touched on it in the draft, in fact, Middlecott. Early game draft, early game agency for them with the Volibear pick. It's picked up its first dragon, and it has had sniffs toward the bot lane. Not really anything much more than that. But potentially still windows for them to get leads, and I think that they're recognising now quite how safe a Tristana can be, and maybe defer the attentions of the Volibear elsewhere.
Yeah, talking about windows, as we are seeing a small XP lead here for Bung and Twist on this bot lane. And that level 6 mark is very, very dangerous on the Aphelios. The level 6 is also very, very dangerous on this Volibear, but Smiley and Vagnorum are able to clear away the wave just in time to prevent the dive from coming through.
I think that's, you know, again, a game of seconds here, League of Legends. If Schönfire is there, maybe as the wave is crashing, as opposed to within the window where Smiley can clear it out with that explosive charge, it puts them in a great position to try and dive underneath the turret. And, you know, just before Smiley dings that level 6-2 would have made it a lot easier to get away with. Ultimately now it is just a stolen away Krug camp in exchange for a Rift Herald, which is also a couple of plates given over to Bung, worth mentioning. But those are going to get traded back for that Herald. We'll have to kind of say the cost benefit of this.
Because fundamentally, that's what we're talking about. It's an economic trade. We've got 2 plates on Bung, we've got that Krog camp stolen away from Karim, and then we've also probably had a little bit of CS XP being shared out from the members of Opron. So you've gotten a little bit of gold for yourselves, and now the onus is on Team Go to use this Rift Herald effectively, not just throw it into a full health tower to get a couple of plates, but actually try and break open the map.
If they can do that, that is a really big win for Go in this early stage. We're already seeing them with just slight CS leads across the board. The top lane in particular is one that is actually the only one that is in their favour. It's the gold lead, rather, that is more so in tune with them. And once again, I want to quickly point out, we see this every week from Nuku, but every week I have to point it out because it's still crazy. Lethality on the Aatrox.
Hell of a lot of fun. Hell of a lot of fun.
That is
Grim
true.
not enjoying himself. That was a nice trade. It's showing what the Talia can do, but Vagnorum is here and maybe getting some retribution for his jungler. It's actually Karim who's taken low, goes under the tower, gets a rock thrown at his head. The Amumu is going to be forced to flash away his Twist, has the ultimate and is going to be using it. The AD carries 1v1ing on the other side, but the support goes down. Smiley forced to jump away as well. Good response from Opron.
Yeah, stepping just a bit too far forward right there, and Oplon, they did read that play very, very well. They're you know, recognizing Karim and Vigrum missing on the map. Karim shows himself for a little trade early doors, and then opting into another engagement with Vignorum there. Level 6 disparity between these supports as well allows for the chase down onto the Amumu. A 2-for-0 play, but now Ronaldo may be looking to convert on this top side a little bit different because Dalek is about to hit Mega.
Yeah, that Mega Narbara is about to come through as Nikyu goes into the ultimate form, and the damage is just too much. No chance that the tower is going to trade one over. And with this Rift Herald being summoned in the top lane as well, Go going to secure first break.
So advantages generated on opposite sides of the Rift. Oplon win out in the bot lane, but Go make a bigger splash in this top wave. The entire turret falling and 2 kills onto Anar, already down 30 CS. Going to be in a very difficult position for the remainder of the early stages into the mid game as well. And this side lane should be very much Nuke dominant. You can see even on this bot side, Bung not necessarily able to trade back one turret where Team Go on the top side actually take a second. No response from Oplon in terms of those structures. They do secure Drake number 2, which is ideal for them. They want this early game win condition, it feels like. But they're not paying now, making a move down into this bot side.
Is being followed by Ronaldo.
Hesitance.
Hesitance.
They need to try and force these plays, unfortunately. I know that they don't have volley barrel ulti because of the fight that happened earlier. But you had a 4v2 on the bot side of the map right there. Just because you can turn off the turret doesn't mean that you need to necessarily. Even if you sacrifice Twist and he just walks forward, tanks a hook and dies under the turret, you get 2 kills right there. You're still going to be happy with that. These are little plays that you may see better teams tend to opt for. Oplon, I can understand their hesitancy, right? You don't want to go for those risky plays, but sometimes you need to try and find leads.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that in the itemization come through. The only member of Oplon that actually has a mythic is Bung. Great, you've got your AD carry accelerated. However, this top side for Team Go has already got 3 completed. The Eclipse, the Divine Sunderer, and the Ludens. All of these champions are going to be spiking really, really hard now, and whilst the itemization will start to come through, and I imagine that by the time that next Drake spawns, Oplon are going to be a little bit closer to parity, they are still behind in this game where they really, really don't want to be.
And let me tell you right now, Middlecourt, a 1-item ADC versus a 1-item top laner, that's not fair. Those are not 2 things that you can trade off against one another and say, oh yes, these things are equal.
The base damages, and well, I suppose just the ability of top laners to bully AD carries at this point in the game is pretty significant. The Gale Force provides you a little bit of extra safety, a little bit of extra mobility, but yeah. I don't think Bung wants to be 1v1ing Nuke anytime soon. No,
and also the nature of solo lanes. Nuke has just got 2 levels experience lead over Bung, which is not to say Bung is, you know, it's not a discredit to Bung, it's simply because he's been playing in a duo lane for the duration of the game thus far. So it's going to make it even harder for the strong suit of Oplon to play up against the strong side of Team Go. Obviously, the nature is the later the game goes, the easier it tends to be for Bung to be able to deal with an Aatrox. More items, more mobility potentially off the back of that, and potentially more adeptness with that kiting. Do finally see this turret, though, traded back in this bot lane. It did require 3 people's assistance. It may have just been Bung getting the gold, but Twist and Shernfire were all there, shepherding the Aphelios to the turret, where we're seeing now in this mid lane a lot of focus by Team Go. Nuke still obviously ahead in experience for the most part. I think that has largely evened up, but still has the CS lead. He's been pretty much freed from top lane for the last 2-3 minutes, and it's been used to put gold into Ronaldo.
And we've seen this guy pop off on the Ari before, so not going to be disappointed to see that. I do think the onus still is on Go, because with Bung actually picking up that tower and picking up that extra gold, the difference between these AD carries is started to get a little bit scarier. And, well, we already mentioned that now it's not really in a position where Bung can fight up against anybody, but they've got the 3rd highest gold in the game.
Yeah, 1,500.
This Aphelios is not irrelevant.
No, you're quite right. 1,500 gold over his counterpart as well. Is the largest disparity between any role that we see on the Rift, even taking into account our top laners. And, you know, we are obviously experiencing this thing where a lot of objectives have been traded. It's not necessarily a bloody game that we may have anticipated from these 2 squads. But both teams have got their objectives firmly set up. They both know what they want. And thus far, it's a game of who is going to have had the better plan moving forward.
Yeah, and I think a key thing that may enable Go's plan going forward is actually picking up that Rift Herald, because Drake spawning in a minute's time. They want to be breaking down this mid lane tower as soon as possible. You see Kareem summon that Herald there, so the structure will be falling, and that means that Go have a much easier time rotating into that river.
50 seconds, as you mentioned, on that Hextech Dragon.
Oh, Peng being jumped onto by Ronaldo. So much damage onto the Talia. But it's actually Kareem who's taken out as Vega Norum with a huge curse to the Sad Mummy, but there's no damage to follow it up. Ronaldo goes down as the hook connects onto Nuka, and the Aatrox is falling down as well. An overextension by Go in the mid lane, and Oplon are absolutely ready to punish Smiley, the last one standing, able to escape to the relative safety of that tower. But now with those death timers on the board, it's Oplon that can move towards this Drake.
4-0. A large swing going their way. They'll be able to take this turret, potentially move themselves toward the Dragon. Remember, it is, as we mentioned, Hextech Soul and the Hextech Rift, which means getting out toward that Drake is something that can happen a little bit faster. And going for both, maybe a bit of an overreach for Oplon. Nuke has teleport. They've not spent their gold. Go have gone back to base and gotten all of their gold spent. Teleport from Nuke. Look at this. It's from behind inside Oplon's jungle.
They're going to be going for the fight, but the Drake is already going to be dead before they could get there. A steal comes through from Kareem. That's massive. Oplon don't have that soul point in their back pocket and are going to be forced to retreat.
Importantly, Shenfire didn't have smite for that. It's not available. It's just now ticking up to being ready. So they were fully expecting Kareem not to be able to get into the pit, but uses the flash to get over. Ulti's back out to safety. And that's a very nice advantage for Oplon. Peng plays this fight for escaping beautifully. Baits Ronaldo in, Zonya's stopwatch, whatever it may have been, does enough. And I think that Twist actually forcing the flash back, also very, very nice. We also have to credit Dalek for that, because he was distracting all three of the other members of Go that were there, and also dealing a fair whack of damage to them as well.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to complain about Anar at this point in the game. And I think the key thing that we saw from Oplon there was that they're actually playing a bit more as a unit, and it was Go who were kind of going in one by one. Obviously, Kareem was going so far forward and got caught almost immediately. Ronaldo going over that wall, getting a little bit too hyphy, and now that gold is swung back in the opposite direction. It's actually Oplon who probably have the lion's share of the pressure.
And now is a great time, Middlecott, for us to harken back to what we said a little bit earlier on. Team Go's composition functions when they get resets, when they get that first kill. Ronaldo wasn't able to find the kill onto Peng, wasn't able to reset. The same could be said for Kareem. Would have loved to be able to just jump in, find the one shot onto the Talia, go invulnerable, find a reset, and go again with this fresh corpse, fresh body to have been possessed. It didn't happen. It meant that the team fight was very difficult for Team Go. And this is, just why we're mentioning, okay, earlier on, the resets need to happen. The fact that they didn't meant the team fight was very difficult. And looking forward, Go are going to have to try and adjust to that.
Yeah, but they're still playing their game. They're still playing out their macro relatively cleanly, able to force away Dalek from this bot side and going to take down this tier 1. So all of the outer towers removed from Oplon's side of the Rift. Peng up in the top lane with interesting summoner spells. I know that's from the spellbook route, dude, but whenever I see a Ghost Cleanse, I start to get sort of Vietnam flashbacks.
yeah, that's fair. Understandable enough. You are quite right, though. This is now, obviously, summoner spellbook making a bit of a difference. Oplon, interestingly enough, don't commit to taking this entire top turret, so it is a slight advantage on the map play by Team Go. Which is a little bit perplexing to me. Oplon not really making any map moves where we saw sort of 4 or 5 people overload into the bot side by Go. So again, a bit of a lack of respect for what they could get away with.
And you know what? That's something that we criticised Go for in earlier weeks. Just not realising how far they could actually push their advantages, what they could actually take off the map. And Oplon, I think, falling victim to something pretty similar there.
Not wrong. In really any capacity, Middlecott, congratulations. Nice little scout out from Peng, I want to credit, because this is one of those waves that Ronaldo stays for, that he doesn't particularly have any purpose staying for. If we look at the vision in the topside jungle of Oplon, right, there's one blue ward that Ronaldo is like keeping him thinks he's keeping him safe. If there were Oplon members there, he was probably just going to have to force ulti, force flash, something along those lines. Okay, Churn.
Might be forcing to engage in the mid lane as Smiley jumping into the river, getting the buster shot back as well, but has no flash and cannot get out of the engage. Oplon commit heavily to kill the enemy AD carry.
But kill the enemy AD carry, they do 1 minute 10 seconds before the Drake is spawning. Ready to go and set up vision now in the spot side jungle. It doesn't secure them the objective, but it secures them a much better venture to go and take it for themselves. They've got, obviously, what should be complete priority through the mid lane, which they should then extend into pushing vision lines a little bit further forward into the enemy's jungle, knowing exactly where we're expecting to see Go come from.
Churnfire feeling confident enough to just throw up the Sky Splitter and walk into these bushes without really a care in the world. At this point in the game of the Volibear, you're kind of at your most effective point. You're incredibly tanky and deal a fair bit of damage as well. The Drake spawning in 30 seconds, final sets of resets coming through from Oplon to pick up itemization for the upcoming fight.
And this is the perfect window, right? And looking at those items in particular, we have 2 items hit for Peng, 2 items hit for Bung. These are not the apex of the Aphelios by any means, but it is a completed item versus an incomplete for Smiley. Ronaldo on this 2-item spike on the Ahri as well, though, someone to keep our eyes on. The top side for Team Go, certainly very, very scary. Looks like we're not going to have a fight though, Midaclot, and it is going to be a respectful trade. Team Go opting to take this dragon where Oplon have moved into this top side jungle, and they're going to take 1 turret. Option for them to take a Baron was on the cards. They don't opt into it as they don't have quite all the setup for that just yet. But they could well look for a pick play on the return to this topside jungle, or just go for a second turret.
And deny some vision away from Team Go. I think that was Dalek had just gone mini, basically at the timing of the Drake spawning, so obviously wouldn't have had the Mega available for the fight, and a mini TPing in at that point probably isn't going to be offering you as much. So instead going, we'll take the gold and the map pressure that we can from taking down these top lane towers.
And now we have a very long top lane, and this is one of the rare instances. Shut up, Midaclot. Shut up. All the turrets are dead between the fountain, between the base. Okay.
It's a very long top lane. I agree. If you're getting frozen in that wave, you're never getting it back.
No, and you bring up freezing, right? But this is actually where wave management starts to get really important, because if you just push one wave or you accidentally start a slow push, these like lengths in the lane, you can start to stack up a fairly sizable wave without ever having to send a champion there.
As Kareem is sending himself into multiple Oplon members, he's able to take away that red buff, but has to flash away as Veganorm finds the engage. The Weaver's Wall splitting up this fight, splitting up the members of Team Go. But here comes the backup, the shutdown secured. That's the first kill of the fight. That's what we wanted for them. But the health bars just aren't there to back it up. The Moonlight Visual going wide as Kareem thinking about making a play on the side, but Ronaldo goes too far forward and is exploded. Flash over the wall from Peg. Smiley knocked into the skies, put down into the dirt. A double kill for Bung as Baron is the next objective.
This Talia pick is absolutely routing Team Go. There was an unraveled earth lave through the corridor on the top side of the red buff. Nobody could jump forward to get the body, to get the reset, to continue the chase. We saw Nuke go for it, and he got absolutely chunked out. Smiley gets flashed on by Peng. Oh, just zoning away.
Kareem has stolen one objective this game, but I'm not sure he's going to have an opportunity to steal another. Veganorm going in. The Baron is still hitting, and Dalek claims the first kill of the fight, but that Talia is off the board. Nuke trying to reset, but isn't going to be able to do it, and Kareem falls down just before he can secure himself a corpse. Once again, Oplon find the play on the top side. And with that Viego dead for another 30 seconds, this Baron should be as good as theirs.
Well, that was very scary on the top side, but very well played by Oplon, all told. Ronaldo, though,
actually going onto the backline, diving into the pit, finding a charm, finding some damage, but is on the wrong side of town. Dredge line into the root, godlike kill for Bung.
He's 7-0-3. He's got a crit cloak. That's going to be an Infinity Edge. When he gets back to base, plus Baron. Oh. That's disappointing.
Do you know what? It's a third item and an
It's a
Ophelios.
third item.
It's a third item. I don't give a damn what it is. Maybe it doesn't do as much damage as an Infinity Edge was, so I'm pretty sure that Bung hasn't got an Excel spreadsheet open to him in an open like for him on another tab on his PC. So we'll forgive him, a minor itemization mistake potentially, but I think generally Oplon looking really good.
My expectation here to not completely bash on him for that is that he just didn't have the goal to finish it, and finishing Lord Dominic's is way better than sitting on flat AD, so it's not bad. This is still obviously a big swing for Oplon, setting themselves up to take multiple turrets around the map. Dalek pushing in this bot lane, he needs to be careful.
Ooh, that's going right, but hold up, Rude Dude, we're having a fight here. Go were looking for something, but it's getting turned around on them. Nuku caught off on one side as Bungy caught on the other, and he's able to dash himself away to follow through for Vegnorum, but the Aphelios is still alive. The Moonlight Visual, the damage as Ronaldo finally claims the shutdown, but it is another one fight for Oplon.
They get the kill in the end, but there are 3 other people that ultimately die for this team. Go getting absolutely torn apart in these team fights, and kudos to the CC-oriented members of Oplon. Every single time somebody tries to make a play for Bung, they are diving into them and protecting the president at all costs. Unfortunately, the president fell, but they've got all of the supporting cast ready to go, take the inhibitor regardless, and they made the assassins pay.
Pretty snazzy exit with a Hex Gate as well, just to double down on it, Rude Dude. It's been excellent passages of play from Oplon, and honestly, it feels like we're in week 7-2 right now, Rude Dude, because game 1 of the day, and we have got a potential upset on our hands.
And let's remind people of what this means for the standings. Team Go are 1 game out of being in a tied situation with 3 other teams inside the playoffs. They were expected to win this game and tie up their wins bracket. They were pretty much expected to be finding at least some stay into the playoffs today because of the other matches that are going up. But Oplon are here to play spoiler. They have decided that they are not giving Go a free ride into the playoffs. They want to show that this is still a team that, despite having to play up in the relegations, that they're going to be back in 2023 and they're going to be looking for more wins.
Yeah, I love it when a team doesn't have anything to play for, but still comes out onto the Rift and puts up an exceptional performance from multiple members of the team. To be fair, Schönfire on this volley barrier has been finding engages without going too deep. Bung has been dealing so much damage, and then Peng has been getting these knockups, buying so much of this space that Go are struggling to actually get onto the backline carries of Oplon, and we see Kareem being caught out in the jungle. Multiple members of Oplon here to back up the play if needed. Just securing some vision instead.
Bated breath, tension starting to mount. There's a bot lane inhibitor down, and Nuku's job thus far is to deal with all of the minions that are going down in that bot side. He has got TP if there happens to be a fight in this top side. And this is honestly a position where Volibear gets a lot of priority as well. We've started to reach the point of potentially falling off as a champion. But him being able to turn off this turret means dives are very easy.
Oh, Dalek going forward, but doesn't quite find the stun onto Smiley as in goes Vegnorum to lock up 3, but goes down himself. A trade of 1 for 1 as Kareem KT has occupied Dinar's body. But without that Mega Form, can't be an engaged threat, can't be a CC tool to lock down the Oplon carries.
And once again here, we are seeing that this slight discoordination from Oplon comes through. Schönfire still has ulti. Twist didn't quite dive in with Dalek, who made a big flash play. Now they're going to go for take 2 in a 4v4.
Weaver's Wall to force Ronaldo and Smiley away from this position. The inhib going to be the focus now, going to be taken down. That's 2 for Oplon at this stage of the game, and Go are slowly losing advantages. Nuku trying to find the infernal chains onto Twist as Kareem is in the Harrod's path on the side. Vegnorum looking for an engage, but those unraveled earth, those stones just mean it's so hard for you to actually get in on this team.
Talks about how much I love the Talia in the draft, and we really are getting to see it in its full glory in this matchup. Peng doing beautiful work in the top side of that fight when they were taking the inhibitor. With the 3 members, we had the 2 tanks shepherding in the Aphelios to hit the inhibitor. We had Peng running anchor on the backline, just sticking down the unraveled earth where Karim was looking to make his way forward. Just really good play around your composition, recognizing what you can do, what you can't do, and making the most of it. Now with a Baron spawning once again in 40 seconds and only 1 inhibitor left standing, pushing waves in both side lanes for Team Go. It's going to be very difficult for them to get the waves far enough out of the base for them to have any real time out on the map. B, if we just see a little bit of stalling by Oplon, potentially waiting for the rest of Go to come out of the base and see those side waves really start to crash in, they can force Go to go for a fight, which at this point, they're really not expected to win.
Not expected to win, but they do have at least itemization parity in some parts of the game. Peng and Ronaldo relatively even in terms of 3 items apiece for their Nuke and Dalek. Also, both on 3 items, although that stopwatch for the Gnar, when he's diving in the Megaform, could be so crucial to buy time for the members of Oplon.
I was going to say, look at how easily they'll be able to kill people. We have got Aftershock Nautilus, we've got stopwatch on Gnar and Aphelios, who's going to be the lead focus of EPS source to kill. Peng is just chunking out Vignora. Any engage he goes for is a one-way trip right now.
Absolutely. The Amumu hasn't really found the ultimates to win the game yet for Go, but this could be it. No, it's not likely. It's already 2 kills in favor of Oplon. As Smiley, Ronaldo, and Kareem are on the wrong side of the rift. The Baron
top lane.
Not going to be started up, but the base is in shambles. Bungo's golden to prevent himself from going down, but Kareem is going to possess a new body and take out Schönfire as well. It's the Aphelios versus everybody, and the Aphelios wins. A double kill secured from Bung there as the rest of his team, I think, is just ending the game. Ronaldo going forward. The Orbital Deception goes wide, but the Charm doesn't. It's a 1-for-1 regardless, and that means that no one can defend the base from Dalek and Peng as victory is claimed by Oplon.
Wow, and with playoffs dangling in front of Team Go, Oplon snatch it away like the bullies that they were that game. Absolutely wonderful performance from them. A